Welcome to the ninth episode of the Slice of Time Street Photography Podcast. Today I'm joined by Giannis Angelakis, a street and documentary photographer from Crete. His work caught my eye because of the dynamic, well-composed images he has made of his hometown and the traditions living there. So, Giannis, could you perhaps introduce yourself for a second?
Hi, I am Giannis Angelakis. I have lived most of my life in Crete. I've lived some years in England, 5 years, where I studied. I did a degree in media and cultural studies, and the second one in with a focus on globalization and again cultural studies. I returned in Greece, and since then, I've been living in Chania in Crete. I started with photography quite later in my life, at the age of 30 years old, and really at the age of 34, 35, I became more serious about street photography. At the age of 30, I started because my job was a journalist, so it was useful to have a camera, and when I was covering an issue or something like that, to take a photo of something that was happening in a riot or anything like that. And then came the financial crisis in Greece, and this had a huge effect in my life and in the lives of many people around me. Many friends, a close circle of my friends left from the country, and it was a tough period, emotionally also, and I tried to find some way to clear my mind from everything that was happening, and one way to do that was street photography. That's how I started taking photos on the streets. And taking photos on the streets of a small town like Chania is quite different from taking photos on a big city like Athens or London or New York or anywhere else, or Paris, because many times when you do it quite often, sometimes, they might recognize you. It's the guy who takes photos. I mean, it happens, It hasn't happened as often as you would expect, when I started, and that's a surprise. But when I started taking photos, I always had in my mind that this is a small town and people might recognize me. I'm also doing a job which is, as a journalist, and so you have in your mind that you have to be more careful. But when you think like that, this makes it more difficult for street photography. So I don't know. After a point, I stopped thinking about these things, and most of my material is from Chania. The biggest amount of material. Some material are from some trips I've done in other places in Crete or in an island like Anafi or Milos that I went once. But most of my material is based here in Chania, Crete. Material which is like connected with my job as a photojournalist. I cooperate with some photo agencies. So I cover some news and I try to incorporate elements of street photography into news coverage, which I think is very useful. These are connected for me, You can use your experience that you gain from street photography to other kinds of photography.
Yeah.
I even have a friend who just published a photo book, and he had started as a street photographer, and now he published a book which is organized shots about the environment. The issue of the book is about the environment. Well, he's not a friend of mine, but he's a guy from Chania who is also in street photography. We know each other. It's a small circle. Friend is a very strong word. And I found it interesting because there was a discussion after the presentation of his book, and it was clear that many of his shots, while he had them storyboarded, he had created storyboards for the shots that he wanted to take. So he had it planned, he had to search for places where he could take the photos. At the end, many of the shots came by luck, let's say, because something happened. It wasn't like it was the scheduled shot. It was something that happened. Someone passed from there and he liked the feeling of it and he clicked. So I find this interesting, that how he anyone I think who is doing photography incorporates elements from his experience, his past experience, and other things he does. I think that's something that is a part of still photography. I think for me at least.
Yeah, because I was curious. It was something that I noticed, and I was wondering to your photos. Because, for example, you have this series on your website about. I'm gonna have a quick look that I'm saying the right words. But it was like people of Hania, but also like there's this the burning of Judas, for example. And it's obviously like a yearly event, I think, or
yeah.
But it's like how. And we were talking about storyboarding. That's maybe a bit like far to go. But is it like how well researched are you, or do you know these events because you've went to them for like all your life, or like how much knowledge is there in advance before you go to, for example, the burning of Judas, or there's Holy Saturdays at Pyrgos, like how.
Yeah. Well, I work as a journalist, so I get to know about certain events, but these are quite popular also in Hania. They happen every year during the period of Easter. So I know that this is happening, and I've seen photos from other photographers, and I'm thinking, why shouldn't I go there and try myself? So. I can't say that it is programmed in a manner like I know what as a photojournalist I know what shots I want to take to make the story. I have to have specific shots. I have to have a shot of the crowd, a shot of I don't know, people with the candles, light the candle or something like that. But after a point, when you take, I think you noticed too, even in commercial photography, that you start, I don't know how you work, what is your method, but when you start taking photos after a point, you just let yourself go, you get in the flow of taking photos, and you just keep on trying things until, among these things you try, something good might come out. I mean, many times when you take photos, if you are a good photographer, you will take some good shots every time. But to have some shots which are very good, it's a different thing. It doesn't happen so often. But when you do your job as a photojournalist or commercially or in any other way, you need to take some shots, some specific shots, and after that, you can experiment. You can try other things. You can see how it works. And keep on going and seeing how it goes.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. So, like, is it like a daily thing for you, photography, or is it like how often do you need to go out?
It depends on the period. There are times in my life where I used to go every day out to take photos. It was part of a routine, which I enjoyed, But because life can be pretty hard sometimes, and even, half an hour or 1 hour, when you go out, you have to, when you go out, sometimes you get in the mood, but if you have too many things on your mind and too many works to do, that's sometimes it can't work, it doesn't work that well. So during this period, for example, I go out three times per week.
Nice.
But there've been times, that I used to go every day out, part of a routine, going out specific hours, regardless of the weather or anything, regardless if there were chances to take good photo or bad photo, it was a part of a routine,
Yeah.
Going out for a walk, holding my camera, and, if seeing something interesting, taking a photo of it.
That's what I find interesting, like regardless of the weather, because it's that I think is very, very cool because or very good because like there are several weather conditions, so it's you can always go out if it's sunny and that's nice, but the photos from rain, or for example, I didn't ever considered that it could snow on Crete, and because of your photos now I know, and I'm sure a lot of people would be like, "Oh, it's snowing, I'm not going to go out or anything." Like I think that's great. So that's something I'd like to show street photographers to like every weather condition has its charm. It's like,
Yeah.
of course, it's more fun to be in a t-shirt in a sunny weather, but the rain can provide for some nice images.
Rain is excellent. I prefer rain than sun, and
Oh, really?
yeah, because I don't know, it's more complex, I think. You can find more things with rain. For example, raindrops, can create useful element to add in photography,
Yeah.
or
Sure.
using surfaces that have raindrops, or using the ground that might reflect something, on the
Yeah.
water. So all this can be used. And okay, I mean, also the expressions many times of the people when it rains is more interesting, or even the light, how it falls, it's
Yeah.
more moody and okay, yeah.
And add for
And also,
drama. That's true.
winter light, I think in Crete is better than summer light. When it's sunny during winter in Crete, it's better light, especially during 3-4 o'clock, just before it gets dark. During winter in Crete, the light is very, very nice. It's not.
Is it because the sun is lower, or?
I haven't, researched on it. I just know that it lights better and it falls. It's smoother, because here during summer the light is strong. Maybe in your country is also strong. I don't know. I haven't been there, but here it's strong. It's very hot, and even during the late hours, it is nice. But I find it strong. Sometimes even even in the late hours. In the winter, it's better for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's fun because like for a lot of photographers, like the harsh light is kind of part of their style, like with the light silhouette pockets.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you have a different approach to it.
I use also in during summer I use this kind of silhouette photography and stuff like that. But I prefer winter.
Yeah.
It's not like that I don't like the other, but I prefer the winter climate.
Yeah. And do you notice a difference between your, either style or outputs between winter and summer? Like, do you see that you make different photos, or perhaps more photos or less photos in a specific season?
Well, it depends, sometimes, I might go out and, it's again what we were saying before, the flow. If you get in the flow, I can take 500, 600, 700 photos, when I go out.
Yeah.
If I don't feel
like
like
in
it, I
what
might
time
make
frame? Like how?
1 hour, 1 hour and a half hour,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I can take a lot, many times, it's because, for example, if you see something, a scene that you like, you now with digital cameras, the good and the bad thing with the film photography is that, you had a very limited number of shots. So you knew that you had to take the shot. That was the important thing. And you knew that from the when you took the shot, it's over. You go to the next shot. You were happy with the shot you took, and you went to the next shot. In digital photography, it's different because you can take one shot, and if you like it, you might think maybe I can try this and I can try that. So if you have a chance, something is happening that you like. With digital photography, you can try different angles, you can experiment. So that's what I do, I try to take from one to have the shot that I want. And if I'm not sure about the result, I don't go back to shoot, but in my mind, I think, okay, but if I try like this, maybe it would be clearer, maybe the background would be better. So I keep on trying, things. And then at the end of the process, I go back to check. It takes more time than to select the photos. when you have
Yeah.
many. And now I have, for example, more than 1,000 selected photos that I haven't edited to use because
Oh, okay.
I gathered too much material, which I don't have now the time to
Yeah.
process. The process doesn't take, it's not a very heavy process, but even like that, when you have a lot of material, and for me, black and white, which is my preferred medium, takes more time to do because you have to do first processing the basic in Lightroom, to process first the images to be the good spectrum of colors and stuff like that. Because if you do a good processing, the first processing color, then to convert in black and white, it's better.
Yeah.
Looks better to convert them, because if the first, the color version is not good, the black and white version will be more difficult to bring it as you like. So this takes more time to do it in black and white. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of photographers either like they just shoot in black and white, or they have like the JPEG, the film recipes, but also like because we're into Lightroom now, and yeah, it's not necessarily about the editing that I'm curious, but do you have like a specific way of cataloging your photos? Because of course you're a journalist, so maybe like certain points are important for you, or is it just like a big mess like most of us?
Well, I used to have, but I'm ashamed to say it, but no, it is somehow cataloged, somehow organized, but it's organized in a way that only I can understand how it's organized. So it's not a very useful organization for anyone else. I can find my way through it, but not many others. When I started, I thought, okay, I want everything to be well organized and like that. But
it takes a lot of time.
It's not, if you do it from the beginning, I have a friend who is doing it and he's following it. It's very useful, if you do it. But when I want to go editing, if I spend this time there, I just feel like I'm losing it, I'm losing time that I'm getting out of it,
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense.
No, it makes sense, yeah.
But it's bad. I should have a better. It should be better organized. It helps when it's better organized. You don't spend time searching for something.
Yeah, but it's
Anyway.
But it's that's something, because for me it's just like I put all my photos in one Lightroom catalog. I mean, you can sort by date, so I sometimes have like vaguely an idea, like I made that photo in that period, so I'll have to look more or less there. But it's I was just curious because you were a journalist, if you were if you would do that, but if you don't, then I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
So and like for editing, is it something you enjoy, or is it something you absolutely?
Listen, I enjoy editing, but again, I don't want to spend too much time on editing, because I don't have this time, that's the thing. I work too many hours. So I try to find the middle way. I have, somehow created this kind of recipes for black and white conversion that I like. So it's like when I finish with Lightroom, then the process to convert to black and white, it's much simpler. It takes much less time. But even like that, to edit, for example, a set of 60 photos, it might take 1.5 hours.
Yeah,
that's considerable time, I think.
True.
I know others that it takes much longer to edit 2 or 3 photos. So, okay, for 60 photos, it's good time. It's okay. And if there is a photo that I think it's quite special, and sometimes sometimes photos don't need editing. Some others, they need editing not because they are bad photos, but because
there's more in it. Yeah,
you need to do some editing. You need to bring a little bit the shadows up or get the other down to make more dramatic the contrast that you saw in the photo. And if you want to do that correctly, you need to spend some time on it. You can, of course, you can just raise the contrast and finish with it, but this is not the way to do it. So if you want to do that correctly, it takes time.
Yeah.
Sometimes the photo comes perfect as you take it, and you do 1 minute, you finished. Other times it's a great photo, but it needs editing. So if you have such a photo and you want to make it look correct, or maybe, for many years I was using a camera which is, it was a nice camera. I liked it. I liked the feeling of it, but technically it had some drawbacks. I had the Fuji X-E1, which is the old model, a first time camera, for people who start, and I had it for many years. It was my basic camera for many years, and it served me well. It had shutter lag though, so to take the photo, I had to take many shots. Because with the shutter lag, I wasn't sure I was taking the photo. It could miss it for half a second, or not half a second. The shutter lag wasn't that long, but a very small amount of time, you can lose the shot. So it made the number of shots much greater. And the editing also, in specific situation, it needed more editing in specific situation, because the light might not be as well exposed, or the shadows not as they should be. But again, I mean, the good thing about this photography, for me at least, is that it's not about the camera you hold.
No.
I'm not saying it's the photography. Yes, it is the photography, but I mean, it is street photography is with what you are feeling okay with it. It might be your mobile phone. I've made street photography with an action camera, a cheap action camera that costs $40. With any camera that you feel comfortable with, it doesn't have to be the most expensive. Because I see many people, and they try to. I know many amateurs, many people who start, and they think that if I buy the best camera, that will be the best. I will take great photos. And it doesn't work like this. You have to spend time. You have to take shots. You have to make mistakes. Okay, maybe in the future with AI, you will have a camera, and the camera will point you that this is a nice frame, and you can just press the click automatically. But for me, then this will not be photography, because photography is the process of learning how to do that, of developing your own style, of understanding what you like, and all the process to reach to this point. Photography is like life. You don't get to choose where you live, or the conditions of your life, but you get to choose what to do with it. Like with street photography, you get out, and you don't get to choose the conditions or what camera you hold. You might be poor, you might not be able to buy a good camera, but you can get to choose what to do with what you have on your hands and the place you are. So it's like life, it's connected with everyday life in that sense. And that's what I like in street photography. It's about life. It's about every different person, and how he lives his life, and how he chooses to go out and do things, And it doesn't have to be good or bad, And that's another thing with street photography. I mean, if you like it and you find pleasure in it, you do it, And that's another thing with street photography. I mean, I don't like this kind of because at specific periods there are specific trends and fashions that some photos do better than others, and this, especially through social media, this can be very menacing. Because if you are a young photographer and you go into this social media world and you see that your photos are not getting the likes that you want, that's disastrous for photography. I mean, the pressure you put on a person who's just starting photography to find, acceptance through the number of likes. And it also, people, when you do that, that people who look at your photographs look at the number of likes you take and stuff like that. This has an effect, especially young photographers who try to fit in a specific style, which is in fashion during specific periods of time, like with field photography. the past years there has been an explosion in film photography. And okay, I know that there is a trend generally to go back to more authentic means of capturing reality, like also with music, that people went back to listening to records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think it's also a fashion, and okay, fashion can be good, but on the other hand, film photography for me is very expensive, even if you buy cheap films. And many times I see photographers who don't spend time to improve the photos they take, or to develop their own style photography, and they are happy just with a feeling they get that sometimes film can create, because people can recognize the feeling that film gives you. And I don't know how you can avoid that, in social media, sometimes the pressure can be immense,
Yeah.
And especially for young photographers, I think it's much greater. It can be much greater. It can, lead them to specific paths that it might be not what they will follow if they were not in this kind of. If they were going alone and taking photos, they wouldn't follow this path, I think. And it creates like this kind of homogeneity. Everyone producing similar content. That's not good. You have to try different things, and it might not be but it doesn't mean that it's bad. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It might.
No, it's
develop your style. I mean, that's the more to express yourself, not to express something that is liked. Of course, you want to be liked, your photos to be liked, but I mean, you have to somehow connect this, to find your own self also through it. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah, true. It's nice that you say it like that, because for me, that's also kind of why I wanted to do this podcast, because it's like I try to make like a broad selection of photographers, because even in street photography, there's like a wide range of styles and niches, and it's kind of to show like this is good photography. And for example, I'm not sure how many followers you have, but to me, it's like 4,400. To me, I don't look to the followers. I look to how consistent is the portfolio, how good are the photos, because I don't care if you have like 200 followers or 200,000 followers. Usually the 200,000 accounts, I'm not gonna say they're bad, but often it's like, as you said, like it's just like a specific thing that they repeat, like a recipe to
they are more like influencers. After a point, you become like a brand. When I take photos, I take different kinds. I take color and I take black and white. If I feel a photo works better in black and white, I'm not playing with that. There are photographers which have hundreds of thousands, and they are great photographers. For example, I really like the work of Billy D, which is like a kind of an influencer photographer. I think him also as an influencer. And it has this kind of elements of film photography and cinematic style. But he's good. You see that in the photo. The composition is very good. It's obvious that it's heavily edited. If you're not experienced, you think that this is like this, but his photos are heavily edited. But the composition is like very, very good. I mean, and you can see that. For me, composition is important. For someone, another person, it might not be. Street photography is not about composition. But for me, that I like composition, his work is top notch on this aspect. So yeah, but the problem is, especially with TikTok and all this kind of TikTok street photography, I think it wasn't. It's not good because it gives a wrong impression about street photography. Like this, I don't know. They look so. About TikTok street photography, which is like
it's often the videos of like them photographing someone and then interacting with them, like those kind of like portraits almost. Yeah. To me, I think it's like in one way they try to just make content, so they have to do something that's repeatable. But it's like when does it stop being street photography and when is it just like content? It's there's a lot of good content creators as well, like especially on YouTube, I think. Or like street photography content creators, of course. as well as like on Instagram Reels and stuff. There's definitely people to be found. But at the same time, yeah, I think it's like, as you said, like street photography is more like it's like live. Like I love that part that you said there, and it's like it is not repeatable, and they try to make a repeatable process because they have to post like every day or every 2 days on TikTok or whatever. But yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It would
That's
be
what you
cool.
said. The fact that they are trying to create repeatable content which will have similar characteristics, that's problematic, because then you are not a street photographer, you are a content creator. You are
Exactly. Yeah.
creating a brand of yourself. You make yourself a brand. And you want your consumer, the person who consumes you, to know that if I go to this page, I will find this material. And this is problematic. I mean, I can't imagine that these persons create only this kind of work. I'm sure that in their own life, they have a lot of material which might be 100 times more interesting, but they don't say it because they know that if they post different material, this will confuse their audience, and might put down their numbers, and they are dependent on the numbers to, I don't know, to sell products or anything like that. So for me, after that, they are not street photographers; they are influencers.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, it's not bad to be an influencer or a content creator, but it's like I wish people would see it separately. Like you have people that create content about street photography, and you have street photographers. It's like you used to have like critics about art, and you have like artists. And of course, the critics could create art and know a lot about it, but they're not the artists. It's yeah, it would be cool to.
I mean, this is also a responsibility of the companies who control the social media, because they change the algorithm in such a way that favors this kind of material being created. So in a way, when you become penalized for not following specific rules, and it kind of leads things to a specific direction. Like, for example, in Instagram, after they inserted Reels, everywhere you read, the Reels were supposed to do better. So everyone, photographers, started creating more and more Reels, which is okay. I've done 2 or 3 Reels, but I mean, after the point, I realized that I don't like that. I don't want that. I want to take photos. That's what I like.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I see now photographers, and they only produce Reels now, because they know that the algorithm will favor that, and they try to create it in a way that will look interesting. Okay, I mean, we all curate the material we post. We all choose what we post. But after a point, when you spend too much time trying to find, to create this kind of image of what is your photography, maybe you lose what is really your photography. If you start restricting what you can post and you cannot post, this is restrictive after a point. It's not freeing you, it's not letting you express what you create and what you feel that you are as an artist. It goes the other way. It makes you like working for, have a phone here. I will close it now, the phone. Anyway, yeah, you know what I mean. That's
it kind of makes like a photo factory rather than a photographer.
Yeah.
I want to circle back. Like let's move away from the social media discussion for a second, and I wanted to move back to the small city part. So you mentioned, like I've looked it up really quickly. There's like 50,000 people more or less living in Chania.
In Chania, it's about 50 to 60,000 people.
Yeah.
And the total of the municipality of Chania, it's about 120,000.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, not a big city.
No.
So how do you do you have experience as well with like photographing in like very metropolitan cities like Athens or London or Paris or I don't know? And do you have because for me, I can imagine that the main question mainly is like, how do you make sure people don't get to know you, or there is the photographer again, and as well don't get bored with the surroundings you're in?
Okay, that's a good question. For me, there are 2 ways to to see street photography, to see to follow street photography. One way is to do street photography while you travel. I know I have friends of mine whose most of the material is created through traveling. They travel to destinations that they don't know, and they take street photography from there. I like that too, it's okay. But there is this other kind of street photography, which is connected with everyday life in the place you live, and it's like documenting this reality with different perspectives. And I think this fits for me. And I think when street photography started, this was its main characteristic, that it was people, everyday people, many times. Sometimes they were news reporters, other times they were really simple people, that just liked photography. And at these times, it was much rarer. And the public space was much bigger also. That's why I gave you the example with the cars. Public space was much bigger, and the people, because there were less photographers, they didn't care so much. But it sounds strange because, when everyone nowadays takes photos, and when everyone, now documents our faces, and when we post every time, thousands, millions, billions of selfies, that in this time we have a problem with many people have problem with street photography. And at that time, which was much rarer, people were looking for, if someone took a photo, it wasn't something bad. It was documenting life. It makes sense also. I'm not saying that it's crazy to think that it can be problematic, street photography, nowadays, because we depend on the image of ourselves in the times we live, and an image of ourselves can become viral, something that didn't exist 100 years ago. The virality, something could become viral if it went in a tabloid newspaper and people read through it. But that was the virality, and the virality came from mouth to mouth, or you couldn't take a photo and post it somewhere and becoming viral. So, and a photograph can have consequences. Of course, it can have consequences. If it's something negative, it can create problems for someone's life. So you have to be ethical when you do that. For me, at least, you have to respect the people you take photos. You don't have to. I don't want to show them in conditions which are disrespectful, or don't show them in good light. Even some harsh photos I've taken a photo of. There are harsh photos that I have not published, which are great photos, but I have not published, and I will not publish. But some that I published, like there is this photo with a homeless person with a dog sleeping on the ground.
Yeah.
For me, this is a very good photo, and it was a difficult photo because I had to go from the top while he was sleeping, to take this photo. So, but I think it's respectful. I don't think that it's a photo that is disrespectful of this man, because I think it shows the connection of a man who's in a difficult condition with his dog. It's a very strong connection. The connection that many homeless people have with their dogs is very strong. It's the only connection they have. This kind of warmth they get from the animal they have. I know homeless because I've done some research on the issue of homelessness. I know homeless people who don't go to refuge to houses, to live in houses, because these houses, houses that the state gives, they don't go to sleep there because they don't permit their dogs to come with them. And they prefer to sleep outside than to leave their dogs. So that says for me a lot of things of how important this is. And but even so what I'm saying is that when you take photo on your place, first of all, a positive thing is that you know the place, where to go, and you also get to explore your place. You get to learn new things about your place. Sometimes when you live in a specific place and it's a beautiful place, you get used so much to it that you forget how beautiful it is. But even if it's not beautiful, you can find beauty through photography. So you can find specific spots. You can find specific spots with specific that that they will do well with specific conditions, weather, or with if people are there, working there, they might look interesting.
Mm.
So you start working in a different way, start seeing the place in a different eye, and this opens your horizon, I think, and it helps you love the place more, and it helps you make also connections. Because, for example, there've been cases that I've taken photo of people, and they found me months after, they've seen the photo, and they wanted to express the gratitude because they liked the photo, and they wanted me to send them the photo to keep on their archives. I find this, I like that, there've been cases that some were not so positive, but these cases were mostly when I was taking the photo, not afterwards. I haven't had complaints after I published the photo about taking it down. I had people who wanted me to delete photos when I took the photo.
Yeah.
But these were few cases in reality. Like if you take in consideration how many photos I and you and every still photographer takes, how many times has it happened to you to be stopped by someone? And
True. Yeah. One so far, but it's
happens, but
it happens, but it's usually like you just explain what you do, or you delete the photos if you agree with them or whatever. Usually it's not a big issue. It's like 5 minutes of talk and then it's over again.
Yeah, if they see that you are not an evil person trying to steal their identity,
no, yeah, exactly.
Make profit out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, it's true. But like with a small city, is it like do you interact with the people often with your photos, or is it more like afterwards that you?
I usually don't interact with people.
Okay.
I take the photo.
Yeah. Okay.
I only interact with people if they ask me, if they talk to me. I don't.
True.
I almost never talk to them, because if I talk to them, I think everything is lost. And even if after I take the photo, I go to them and tell them, look, I took your photo.
And you never know if it's a good
I'm
photo.
crazy. Why did you take my photo?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do that. If he comes to me, then I'm there to explain what I'm doing. Once I can show him some of my work. I can send him the photo if he asks me. People have asked me to send the photo. It depends also from the person. I mean, there are people. I don't know. I don't want to make it political, but there are people who feel like they like to move the finger, to do like this. You did something bad here, and I caught you, and this is not good. I can sit and discuss it, but usually these kind of people are not there to discuss. They are there. They want to feel the power that I caught you doing that. But usually this doesn't happen.
It's an interesting
I don't
way.
know.
Yeah.
I try not to take these things too seriously. I mean,
no, like in the end, it's like you're making photos and you hope that they're great and that they maybe have a significance in like documenting life, but at the same time, it's just photo. Like, it's don't take it yourself, like take it seriously, but also be able to like let go of it. So I think that's great. So like we talked about like you go out very often and it's like not a small city. And do you have like before you go out, do you like you always have the same camera setup, I think? And do you like pick a spot to go, or do you just like leave the door and see what happens? Or
I have a camera now. I bought a new camera some months ago, a Fuji X350. It's It's a very nice camera.
Mhm.
I like it a lot. But I have a very good lens. Um, but I usually go out with the cheap one. I go out with 1855, the old 1855, which is not a good choice because new systems like the Fuji X-T50 don't work well with old lenses.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they don't produce the same as good result as they will with newer lenses. That's something that companies shouldn't do that. This is like, they've done it electronically. They are creating a way to make more money to make me go buy a new lens
Yeah, true.
while I
Yeah.
don't need the new lens. So they inside the new body they have created kind of an algorithm that says I work better with the new lenses, not with the older lenses. So I have to go and buy. I have the 1855, which is a prime lens, which is excellent. But the XT50 doesn't do well as good as the new 1855 that came out of Fuji, which is
Okay.
incredible. I mean, this the 1855 Fuji is a very expensive lens. If you buy it new, it's about 1,500 euros.
Okay.
And I bought it second-hand at around 900 euros 2 years ago. And now that I bought the new body, I learned that the very expensive lens doesn't work as well with a new body, and I have to buy the new 1855 that came out now, this month, which is an excellent. Of course, it is an excellent lens. But if I knew that my lens works as good and it's a bit worse, I wouldn't care. But if I know that the body I have works better, will show its potential with the other lens, I would have to sell the other lens to buy the new one. So this is unethical, I think. It's not about Fuji. I think everyone is doing it nowadays. They find new ways to make you spend money. But this is unethical because in cameras, especially in cameras, people, when they buy a lens, it's something that they get connected also with. And I'm not a big spender. I don't want to. I have specific lenses that I work with, and that's it. I don't want to have 50 lenses. I want to have 2 lenses, 3 lenses. That's it. So when you force me to go buy without a reason to exist to buy this new thing because I don't need it, that's unethical. And yeah.
And so how important is the technology to your photography, or is it like you don't, or like to you, like do you enjoy like cameras, like the technicalities, or is it just like the tool for you and it's whatever?
Listen, I bought the XT50 not because of street photography. I bought it for news coverage because I'm cooperating with some photo journalism companies that they want high quality. The photo that comes out, they want it to have specific pixels and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. So I bought it for this, for more professional work. But I wanted a body that could be quite small that I could use in street photography, so I ended using Fuji X-T50. I was also a Fuji ambassador, so I have some connections here, and I have, I can, with lenses and stuff like that, if something happens, I can find solutions easier. And so I'm using Fuji bodies for a long time, more than 10 years, so I don't want to go to another system.
No, I get that, yeah.
So that's why I upgraded. But if there wasn't this need, I will stay with the X. I had the X1 first, then I had the XE3, that was a second body, and now I went to the XE50. But from lenses, I only had the 1655 and the 1855. That's the 2 lenses I have. If I want something for architecture photography, because I've done some architecture photography sometimes, I have a friend who has a wide lens specific for architecture. But usually, even with the 1855, it's great for architecture.
Yeah. 18 should work. Yeah.
It's a perfect lens. It's like having 3 lenses in one.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's been a while since I used it, but it's like a kit lens for Nikon as well, the 1855. So they put it with, if you buy a new camera, they often put it with it. And it's not the greatest lens, but I used it again a time ago, and I was like very surprised about how versatile and how good it was actually. Like, so yeah, it's something. It's a lens that I think is underrated to some degree.
Also, many of my photographs that I like have come through my mobile phone. Yeah, there are quite a few that are from my mobile phone. There is one of my favorite photos is taken in Milos, which is like a swimmer balancing on the body of another swimmer as they fall, and it's taken with a mobile phone camera. Or there are quite a few photos which are taken with mobile phones. And okay, with of course processing, you need processing there because the quality of the photo is bad. But you can do it's sometimes you don't hold the camera. Mobile phone is also useful because it's small. No one pays attention to you when you hold the mobile phone. I mean, that's street photography. That's why I'm telling. Of course, okay, when you have a better body, when you want to take, for example, reflections, or when you want to capture the light and make a star, to have the kind of these kind of stars coming, you need a good body and a good lens. You can't do that with your mobile phone. But for everyday use, if you want to capture moments and stuff like that, mobile phone is just. There are also some very, very, very good street photographers that use mobile phones. I mean, the name of him is Joachim Moller. I don't know if you know him.
No, not yet. No.
Yeah, you have to check his work. I mean, you have to take an interview with him.
What's his name? Sorry.
Moller Joachim. Let me find the account. And when you see that there are street photographers who produce this amazing material with mobile phones, I think it's an inspiration to everyone, because okay, sometimes I enjoy also talking about equipment, stuff like that, and I follow accounts on YouTube that present new material, but I follow them more like when you watch a basketball game and it's interesting to see who's the best basketball player. That's how I watch them. It doesn't mean that I'm going to buy it. Just comparison, which is better, this lens or this lens, this camera or this camera. Fight. I don't know. It's like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So I mean, I watch these things. I enjoy it, but on the other hand, I'm a very conservative person. I stuck with the things I know, and on equipment at least. I like to feel comfortable with the equipment I have. That's why I haven't changed also from Fuji to other, because I feel comfortable. I know this. I know what it does. I know how it works. I know it. That's it, and I don't want to change it. Might be another camera that says it does Nikon. I don't know, a new Nikon that came out. I don't know. Say it's very good, or the new Sony or anything like that. It's okay. Fuji. We can now have a new camera too, Fuji X-T50. But it took me 8 years to change the body, and I told you why I changed it. I still have the X-T3. It's not like I've sold it.
No. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, for me it's as well. Like I'm in Nikon because like my father had a Nikon, so I used his lenses, and then you're in the system, and then you stay in that system because it's you said it's easy. Like you have all the lenses that work with it, or and you know how it works. Yeah, the camera. So as a final question, perhaps, like I've noticed that like there's a lot of dynamic in your shots, so there's like a lot of movement and like a lot of action going. Also, like I've noticed that sometimes you take I'm not sure if it's your iPhone then perhaps, or your camera, but you take it like in the water or on the beach, and there's like spots all over it. Like how do you get those dynamic images? Is it like because you get close and you have the movement, or
Well, usually the photos that on the beach, usually I found a spot that something is happening,
Hmm.
and I get my camera and I wait for this to pass through me. I don't go like this, following.
No,
I,
yeah.
I do this too. There are photos that are like this, but many of the silhouette photos from beaches are taken like this. I know that something is happening, and I like it. How it evolves, and I try either to find something to use as a surface that can add some interest to the shot, like a glass or a plastic material or anything like that, or to when there is action, to focus on a point that I like the frame, that I know that action will pass through it. And there are some shots that you see that are on the water. They are inside the water. They are with some a cheap action camera.
Okay.
Yeah, which takes shots. Of course, I mean it's a $40 camera. It's a very cheap camera. It's not anything good, but it's strange. It creates a nice. It has some nice alterations. Colors are really mixed up. Really mixed up. Really mixed up, but it looks a bit nice. And of course, there is other lag, and there's. But you take, and sometimes when you are inside the action, and when many times when you take a shot, you can somehow predict up to a point what will come afterwards. So you see something. That's why I'm telling you that. Of course, you've noticed it too when you take photos. That many times you take a photo and then you see that it evolves, and you expect that this will follow. You make like a prediction, like you are a computer.
Yeah.
You think, okay, this might be, or this might be. So you are like this, and sometimes you capture it. Other times, life is not so predictable. But sometimes you predict right. So when you predict right, you get the shot.
Okay, that's nice to know. Yeah, but because it's something I noticed in all your photos. There's like always action and always like a certain dynamic going on. It's very, very nice. So I suggest we'll wrap it up here.
Yep.
I'll for everyone listening, I'll put Giannis's his links in the description, of course, or to his Instagram and to his website, because I suggest you really go to read about the stories as well. And then thank you, Giannis, for being here and for talking.
It was nice. I enjoyed it. I wish the best to you and your effort, your photographic effort, first of all, because you're a good photographer too, and people should see your work too. And your podcast. I've listened to other interviews we've taken, and they are interesting interviews. And I wish you the best.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll meet one day. I don't know, in your country or in my country, if you visit.
Who knows? Yeah, I'll. Yeah, who knows? Would be nice to see.
The world is small. It gets smaller every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.